got a new camera. See how it makes out. We just got back from the city today, and while we were there, I went into a place. I was just glancing at cameras, came across the GoPro Hero 9. So I went and Googled up all the reviews on it and said the audio is really good, saw a bunch of examples. So I grabbed one. So here we go. I haven't test run it before doing this. This is the first time I've hit record on this thing ever. So maybe this will make life a little more easier for me. And what else? I got some news. One of our favorites emailed me. Haven't heard from him in a while. And I'll save his name for right now. I'm waiting for an email reply from him before my next share with you guys from him. And he shared with me a government document that directly pertains to the forest people. All right, so it's very significant. Also, an email from him is very, very significant. And I just got to confirm, I don't believe I read do not share, but from who he is, what he has done, and the contents of this email, I need to be I need to confirm to go ahead and share this publicly. Gives me the green light. I'm all over it. We'll leave that at that. Very significant. Very significant. And much more to come on top of that. What else? Oh, I think that's about it. I'll try to bite my lip on what our current events here in the province of British Columbia, where our leadership is absolutely the most embarrassing fascist group currently in North America, without a doubt. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Anyways, I got some shares I want to make with you guys right away. And one I pre-read on the way over, and I feel I want to share with you right away. It's a new one. Hopefully this camera's working. All right, actually, I don't even know those. These are fairly new. All right, these are new inboxes. Let's hear this one. This is titled "Dogman Encounters in Alberta and a Great Depth of Knowledge. Please keep name hidden." No problem. Hello, Steve. Please don't use my name. Thank you. Gotcha. This will be the 4th time I've sent this email. With you, likely all others were sent into your spam folder. I've finally gotten around again to sending you this email. Let me start off by saying that you have no idea how populous and common dogmen truly are in Canada. You're right, I have no idea. I've heard several reports from all across the West, Central, and Eastern Canada in regards to these beings. No kidding. You know, I had one guy tell me he'd seen some near 100 Mile House or something. But obviously we have a lot of friends in the South, Scott Carpenter included, who've seen these things and photographed them numerous times in the United States. So this will be the first time I heard about this from Canada. I've encountered them several times now and have some fairly shocking information to share. I also have seen a Sabe once as well during last summer. It was a big list and not easy to pinpoint a place to start, as my first experience with them was when I was very young. I do not wish to share at this time very much about it for reasons, but I will say it was a very positive experience, and that in an indirect way saved my life. It gave me understanding that the supernatural is real, and that there is more to life and this world than any of us are told to believe. That experience changed my life and self. It led me to face... Sorry, one more time. That experience changed my life and self. It led me to face, challenge, and deal with several decades of heavy depression. Though never fully overcoming it, I would not have had the strength to be here now if it wasn't for that experience and the greater understanding of the spiritual I have gained from then onwards. Before I get into the Dogman encounters, I would also like to add an interesting similarity in one of your recent video discussions. Several people talked about hearing voices off in the distance, like several people talking together but unable to hear what was being said. I've had this exact type of experience, however, not out in the woods, but in several funeral homes. I worked in the funeral industry for several years, working plenty of graveyard shifts, During these nights, I would be by myself most of the time, conducting my work, moving deceased to their viewing rooms, and if things were slow and everything was caught up, hanging out in the staff room by myself, which all my co-workers viewed me as mad for doing, but I intended to have a good respectful understanding of the spirits and likewise. Wow, that would be a really different type of job. I've had several times those voices take place during the night. Only scared me the first few times and I got used to it, but exactly the same description. So I'm adding, it is very possible said people were hearing human or other spirits talking in the woods, and that likely is not linked to Sabe, Dogman, or any other physical being. Now, I have plenty of ghost stories and experiences with the supernatural in that regards. Such an industry really strengthened me up for the encounters I will next talk about. Let me state clearly for your viewers, it is not a light thing to go out and attempt to see these beings. You need to be of strong spirit and character. If you are not, you'll be greatly troubled and likely physiologically incapable of handling such encounters. I have no fear of death, though fear a painful and timely death, as all sane people do, and have a strong spiritual sense and moral view. First few times I went out on hiking trails, I have only gone twice alone. I will never go hiking, camping, or any activity in the wild alone again. Besides the obvious safety concerns, even I just can't will myself out into the woods very far at all. There are far more things out there than Sabe and Dogman, things that actively do not want to harm or take humans. My friend, whom I have gone on many of these travels with, has a great knowledge of family and friends who have seen Wendigos, whom I wish were just myths. However, as with your emails a few weeks ago, are unfortunately quite real and very dangerous. He has also had a spirit of one trying to lure him and other people in his town out into the woods by his personal account. I'd rather encounter the Sabe or Dogman, even angry ones, any day over such creatures of dark intent in nature. To everyone, be very aware out in the woods in general life. You do not need to even leave your cities and towns to encounter the unknown. All right, I'm going to keep this short. I've had several encounters, and we'll start with the first few. I've had encounters even recent 2 weeks ago, and that one was a very shocking one that I'm sure will be shocking to most of your viewers. My first one was on my last vacation. I visited a trail near a popular sightseeing spot in the mountains of Alberta. I unwisely had downloaded a recorded Dogman howl onto my phone and decided to walk 30 minutes up this trail playing this sound several times to see if I could witness one of them off in the distance. No thanks. If I knew then how populated they were all over Alberta, I would never have done this. It was a wonderful walk, great scenery, a forest on my left and a hill/mountain on my right. I passed two groups of people headed back to the parking area, informing me of a bull that was up ahead, asleep beside the trail. As I was approaching near my 30-minute hiking limit, I noticed said bull sleeping beside the path. At this point, I decided to turn around. It is then that after 20 meters, I was hit with a wave of tiredness of extreme sorts. I was dumbfounded by it knowing I had rested, drank water before I was dumbfounded by it knowing I had rested, drank water before I decided to go on the hike. Bracket, I was oil painting at the popular site beforehand, end bracket. I continued back, shaking it off. It then hit me again 10 times the force of before, with a thought placed in my mind to lean against the tree to my side near the woods. At this point, with my previous experience and understanding of the spiritual and outside forces that do try to influence people, I sensed that thought was not my own and from outside my being. Then I realized something was trying to get me to stay in that area and go to rest. I followed my gut instinct and spiritual knowledge, knowing of the legends of the Fae and some natural spirits, and walked at a steady pace back to my car. This travel was a sheer battle of wills. I was greatly shaken in my spiritual confidence in myself. It was an immense battle. I several times made a stance to push off this influence, but it was a constant practice barrage. I could clearly sense and understand the deep intelligence of this attack. It was like dealing with a skilled special forces soldier, someone who had an immense experience in such tactics. the intelligence I could sense. I never felt open malice or pure fear from an outside source during this time. Just internal understanding of the danger I was in. I made it back to my car, nearly stumbling off the path once, and it began to fade as I came into view of the parking area. The last thing I sensed was an emotion of being impressed with my resistance and sheer will. I'm very convinced that if anyone of weaker will were there in the same situation, they would have fallen under this influence very quickly. I drove back home, almost hitting a deer. Not shocked about that at all, but utterly drained. Even eating at one of my favorite eateries did not remove the heavy exhaustion in my body and spirit. It was until much later that I talked to an expert on Dogman that they informed me that yes, they have had several reports of them conducting such effects on people. I looked at the photo. I looked at the only photo I took of this area during the hike and have found several of them off in the woods watching me in this one photo. Yes, I have been troubled and stressed about this event, but as the individual I talked to informed me if they had wanted to just kill me or grab me, they could have done so at any moment. This was an act, from what I can tell, that they were curious and probably just wanted to neutralize me, to look at me and then move away and let me wake up on my own. That is what I hope, however. I've not gone back to that area since, and I should add, it's a very popular hiking trail that many individuals hike alone all the time. My advice is, if you do go looking for these beings or any others, never ever use recorded sounds. I was lucky. I had several other trails I've gone on with my friend using the same sounds, and after I learned about this, I've not used them ever again. This email's gone on very long, and I will end the first of several encounters here. I've had many positive ones to share. I also have a few to share to inform everyone on your channel that Dogman and these other beings, you don't need to just go out into the woods to find them. I've had several farmers tell me seeing such beings around their farms, and most of all, I have personally seen a group of them at night in a public park in the middle of my fairly well-sized town, only a few blocks away from where I live now. I do believe you are marked after your encounters and understanding these beings to exist, either from them or just your spiritual self is changed and stands out more to them from the common public crowd. This I am unsure. Your talk about focusing on the bigger picture has been a great help to me putting things together. I long-term now am moving away from searching out for the Dogman, though I wouldn't mind talking to a Sabe, and I'm now fully focusing on my animals and spiritual research. I am now fully focusing on my animist and spiritual research. There's so much more potential knowledge to be gained. I rejected these vibration stories up until now, but my friend shared a very interesting dream he had, and along with so much evidence on your channel, I do believe there are great things to be learned in this area. I also will add one with the Sabe. As I was driving towards one location that I have gone to several times where a large group of these beings live, Dogmen, and as I traveled down the mountain road, I sensed something was watching me on the side beside two pickup trucks from hikers. The sensation is the exact same I would have when in the funeral home, and I sensed a spirit in the same room or floor of the building as I was. I stared into the spot and drove by. As I looked in my rearview mirror, I saw a Sabe walk out, standing and looking after me. He was taller than the truck, so at least 10 feet or 3 meters. Cone head and brownish fur/hair with a darker grayer face, and a look on his face that I can best describe. How did you see me? I couldn't believe I saw one of these beings and kept driving. I wish now I had pulled over and attempted from the safety of my car to mind speak with him, or at least speak out respect to the individual. That is just how it is sometimes. Thanks again, Steve. I hope this is not too much to write out, and the grammar checks made reading an ease for you. Excuse me. Thank you for all again, viewers. Thank you all again, viewers. Hopefully no one will view me as insane for this, and what I've come to share later, it takes risk to learn such things. But I've grown in showing respect and kindness to all these beings, and it has left a most positive experience in result. Let me know, Steve, if you, of course you will, would like me to share my other encounters. They're all very interesting and give far more information than this one does. It's a no-brainer, man. It's a no-brainer. Send it over. Send it over. What you shared sure sounds similar to a lot of people have shared with us, right? Send it over. And possibly where you were hiking and felt tired or whatever, fatigued, whatever it was you felt. You might want to do a little digging or leave a note on the trail and see who else has felt the same thing, or even go a little step further, contact local authorities and find out if anybody's gone missing around there in the past. That might be handy. Now, where's this one I was looking for? All right, here's another one. These are all recently emailed into me, guys, all right? I still haven't found the one I'm looking for, but I'll find it. So listen to this. Steve, thanks for getting to my email. Keep up the good work. You and Sarah stay safe up there. Here's some more events that I witnessed in my 70 years. Share if you think they will help others. 1975. We were doing halo jumps and simulated jungle training in the swamps around Fort Polk, LA. We did a night jump and engagement exercise. The unit was scattered over a mile in the swamp. When I landed, carrying about 120 pounds, which included an M60 machine gun, plus personal weapons, ammo, etc., I was in mud up to my waist, and I could not move. It was like my feet were grown into the ground. As I struggled to get loose from the mud without losing the gear I carried, plus get out of the parachute from behind me, something grabbed the chute and literally pulled me and all of the gear out like you would pull a cork out of a bottle. I turned around, figuring it was teammates, and this figure stood there like a giant oak tree. It was dark, so all I know is this hand that picked me up and brushed mud off of me, from me, literally covered my whole chest. I'm now 5'7" and 15 inches across my chest, and the hand covered my entire chest when it went from just under my chin to my waist. As quick as it was there, it was gone. I felt no fear or threat of any kind. It was like it knew I was in trouble and was helping me. That is frickin' crazy. 1982. I was on a destroyer in the Indian Ocean where we were shadowing a Russian sub. After 60 days of doing this, suddenly about a mile from us there was something that made the ocean water look like it was boiling. And a craft came out of the water and went straight up and out of sight in a matter of seconds. It was first reported that the Russian sub was surfacing, but immediately the report was changed to an unidentified subsurface vessel, then changed to a UFO within 35 minutes. We received intel that the Russian sub we were shadowing had a nuclear accident and was surfacing. In 20 minutes, it did surface, and we took pictures. The whole side of the sub was covered in like it had been rammed by another ship. Yet there was no marks visible on the side of the sub, just a giant dent. It was later escorted out of the area by 2 Russian destroyers. 2021, December. I went to check the game cameras and I had light anomaly on there that was a ball of light that started at the base of the tree, went up, stayed in front of the game camera lens, and then went back down to the base of the tree. Then it disappeared, and 5 minutes later it came back and went up and down the tree a couple of times. On one picture there was an orb sitting right above a deer's back, and the deer didn't seem to be affected at all. However, the raccoons that were there eating sat there and looked straight at it, but they didn't seem affected by it being there either. 2022, January. Put the dogs up before going to bed about 23:30. I was calling the dogs. They went out behind the house where the woods are, and as I have bear on the trail camera back there, I didn't want them to get eaten. Suddenly there was a high-pitched whistle. It was right at the top of my hearing range, and it continued for 5 straight minutes without a break. That's pretty creepy. I've never in my life heard anything like it. And that's the end of the email. And I've never heard anything like that either. Larry, thank you very much for sending that email in, man. And you got more. You keep sending it in, all right? Because we want to hear it. We want to hear from everybody. Man, endless. Mark, this one is read. Obviously, your other email does not work. Steve, I tried to give my grandmother's account of how she beat up the Moss Man here in Florida back in the late 1950s. Well, due to your email addresses being so messed up, I will not share with you. I really wanted your perspective on it, but now I find it's useless to even try now. I enjoy your show, Steve. I will listen, but I will never try and share again with you. I will move on. Thank you, Chance. Okay. And that's unfortunate because this is the email that I just got from you and it got read. So that could have been your email in. A little odd. All right, what else we got? This is titled, I Got an Answer of Sorts. Hi, Steve. Just want to share this. I did send it in a long time ago, but haven't heard it read, so it may be lost in the pile. And you said you want to hear our stories, so here it goes again. I'm from Saskatchewan. I'm out on a farm close to the center of Saskatchewan, right in the middle of grain country. Sorry, no mountains, forests, or rivers for hours around. Just miles and miles of fields and not many people. I was on COVID lockdown last summer and getting kind of bored. So I was sitting out on the garden porch at about 11 p.m. drinking a cup of tea and just thinking. I said to the save people. Oh, you must have meant Sabe. This is spelled save. So we'll call it Sabe. So I said to the Sabe people, I hope you guys are doing okay with all this nonsense and BS going on and who knows what to come. God bless you all and keep you safe. Yes, I said a prayer for the Sabe people. Somebody's got to do it. And then I said, it would be real nice if you could give me a couple of wood knocks to let me know you heard me. Then I was looking at the stars and said to God, gee, Lord, I wonder which of them stars are actually your servants who go back and forth looking over things on the earth. The Bible does say something about that. And I was just wondering. And then I went to bed. A couple days later, my daughter got home from her COVID lockdown. We had supper and went to bed. I guess it was like 1-ish or so. I was woken by a vibration and simultaneously hear a crack, a loud crack, like a really loud tree knock. And then I heard a series of more tree knocks from both sides of the yard, really loud, like back and forth. Then I heard a voice inside my head, almost like a bullhorn with a metallic ring at the end. Hey, go. It said, they came. I said, wow, Lord, what do I do now? I heard, well, get up and say hello. So I jumped out of bed, walked to the window, cranked it, and called out. Thank you for coming and telling me that you heard me. I went back to bed, went to sleep. A few months later, I was outside in the afternoon and said out loud to the Sabe, I hope you guys are all fine. Drop by and say hi. Well, you know, it was just a night or two later that I, having just gone to bed, heard an owl hoot and then another one. I went to the window, cranked it, and listened. A whole volley of hoots came. First from one side of the yard and then the other back and forth. When the hooting stopped, I spoke out to them and thanked them for their visiting and said a prayer for their well-being. The first bunch of hoots, I differentiated 3 or 4 voices. After the prayer, there was a pause, and then in a different tone, there were more hoots, and then a second voice joined, and they hooted in harmony. Then just one voice, then in harmony again. Wow, what an experience. They seem to respond to prayer and faith-based communications. It's interesting. That's it for now. Hope this fills in some spaces for people. Have a good day. Wow. All right, well, there you go. That's a different kind of email again. Well, you keep that ball rolling and keep informing us of what goes on around there, all right? It's not your average email in, right? Crazy. All right, here's one I read on the way home to myself. I want to share with you guys. This is titled First Nation Puzzle Piece, all right? And you know how I love hearing from the First Nations people of all continents. Hi, Steve. I've been thinking about writing you for quite some time now. I'm native. Frog clan, born and raised in northern BC. Although a half-breed, I grew up on the res and lived out in the woods with no electric or water for my early years in life. I'm probably familiar with where you grew up. I'm going to share with you some puzzle pieces. I've not written to you before now because as natives, it is taboo to talk about certain things too much. The main reason is that it attracts it to you, sort of thing. So, as natives, we usually don't focus into those areas, but because we have strong medicine and don't like to put it towards certain things too much. Also, I am writing to you now because you brought up the issue of residential schools and the children. I believe that to be a huge puzzle piece, although it is not readily apparent how it relates to the subject. All these issues are connected, even with your and my freedom of choice. Also, I'm writing to you now because censorship is becoming worse and worse, so I wish to contribute to what hopefully will be a cause for truth and compassion to our fellow man. We natives have a flag with colors, yellow, red, black, and white. We say, all my relations, as in all the races and colors. So I speak to you now sincerely with respect for God and my fellow man. Sasquatch or Sabe, we call it Susalol. So it's S-U-L'-O-L. Susalol. The oldest elder we have left told me the other day that there are two kinds. The ones with hair and the cannibals. So the cannibals we call Dene Ai, or man-eater. There is a discrepancy there. One is hairless, according to our legend, although an elder would be quick to point out that that these are not legends. This is just our history. So when it comes to natives, there is an alternative historical accounting that has not been considered enough yet. And in there are stories of cannibal giants and Sasquatch or Sabe, little people, tricksters, fish people, giant serpents, giant birds, and the list goes on. Now, a lot of non-native folks would be quick to call this all nonsense. This is a very unfair judgment and also displays a complete lack of understanding about the nature of the place where we all are. I'm not saying I know either, but I just want to share with you all some puzzle pieces. Continuing about Sabe, or Sasalol. My father saw one when I was a child one night while he was chopping wood. He wasn't scared, just more curious. He called to my mom to come out and look. She was at a camper. She was in a camper, and as soon as she came out and her feet touched the ground, the Sasalol bolted away quickly. So my dad would always tell me this story growing up, and I always knew there was something to it. Later years, I had my own encounters as well. I've had the cabin slapping experience, heard the wails, heard the mumbling, felt the fear, felt the calm, being hit with a rock in the helmet doing 60K in a quad. Quite a few experiences, so I do know they are there. Their tracks can come from nowhere and go to nowhere. Take note of that, you guys, because that has been reported absolutely numerous times and photographed, I believe. So let me say that one more time. Their tracks can come from nowhere and go to nowhere. They can cloak and disappear. They live underground. Back in the old days, my grandmother, or Atsu Cho, I was told by elders that she knew their families and where they resided. They were quite simply families of beings, and when the Europeans came, they receded from reality, quite akin to the way the mists of Avalon faded in the times of King Arthur, when the Age of Reason came on. So my father told me Sasquatch doesn't scare him because they have never done him wrong. He said only humans have treated him poorly through his life, but Sasquatch just leaves him alone. The way I understand it is that it reflects back to you what you carry in your heart with you. Also, they get killed by the government who bring in special ops. So, one of the reasons I decided to write to you as well is that my comments were censored out of your comment section on your videos, and I couldn't interact on your channel. I think it was because of this next. So, 2017, I was the boss of a native firefighting crew, and we were out for like 3 months straight. My right-hand man was this guy, Jason. He's no longer with us. Back then, he was, though, and he told me his story. A few years before, maybe around 2010, there was a Sasquatch that got hit by a train. It was an adolescent, to my understanding. Jason told me the army came in and closed the place down. Later, after that firefighting stint, I was hanging out with my cousin's boyfriend, and he told me the same story. He had lived right around the place when it happened. He told me that he drove the engineer of the train away from the scene. He said the guy was shook up, something fierce, and was saying he was never going to drive a train again because he thought it was a human. Fast forward to later, now my cousin's boyfriend's house is being slapped on the regular and harassed. To my understanding, the Sabe thought they were in part responsible for the death of the baby by the train, and the army taking it away. I don't know, but it seemed that way to him. Now, Jason and my cousin's boyfriend never knew each other, and certainly never swapped stories, so it was a bit of proof of one another's story to have them both say the same thing. So my cousin's boyfriend was getting really agitated, and one day he gets a bead on the creature as it's standing up by the trees on the edge of the property. He said he could have shot it between the eyes, but he rather instead had his mom call the RCMP to ask them their policy on shooting one. They said that it was a gray area because you don't know that it is not a person, and you could very well go to jail for murder. Go figure, eh? I do have quite a few stories and more details of things, but this is getting long, and I wanted to share the thing about the train. So, one other thing really quickly I want to tell you about. There's a res called Fort St. James in the north here, and there used to be a bar there called the Zoo. I actually partied there in '96 before they pulled the place down. So one night, way back in the early day before my time, this was an urban legend of this area, there was a guy who came in buying everyone drinks. Apparently, he cleared the bar when everyone realized he had goat legs. Next, my dad knew this elder who passed on, and this guy told my dad a story about a wild woman who used to party a lot that he knew. She has long since disappeared, but she was hitchhiking between Edmonton and Grand Prairie, and a guy in a big black caddy picked her up. Long story short, she ended up jumping from the moving vehicle when she realized he had a tail. A different and similar story from my brother-in-law who had a friend pick up a hitchhiker one night. He's driving along, getting weird vibes, and realizes slowly that this guy had goat legs. He pulls over and tells him to get out, and the guy screamed and ran off into the woods. So those are weird stories, and I have a lot. I apologize that it doesn't directly relate to your main topic, but I will say all these things are connected. If you find yourself in a tight spot, say the name Jesus Christ, one living God and everlasting King, and that will help you. I'll perhaps write to you again, but for now, this is probably plenty. Thanks, Steve. I hope this helps in some way. God bless everyone. JD. JD, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you taking your time to send that in. And I'm probably speaking for everybody. We want to hear more. All right? I want to hear more. Whatever you got, make sure you send it in. We want to hear it. And believe me, these days today, after the digging I've been doing this past couple months, there's not too much that isn't unbelievable today. And I have a feeling a lot is going to be coming to light in the near future. I firmly believe a lot is going to come to light on many topics. But you have to have an open mind. You have to disconnect yourself from the mainstream narratives, the mainstream news. You have to disconnect yourself absolutely if you want to lunge forward with knowledge. It's just the way it is. That's what I've done. If I could somehow get everybody to dump the mainstream narrative holders, pushers, it would help everybody so much. This cat is ridiculous. But anyway, I'm going to share some more while I'm here, and I'm really hoping to get that email back soon. It gives me the green light to share some substantial information with you guys, which I'm going to do. Not a doubt about it. And also, we may have to help somebody. Possibly. Give me a minute, and I'll be right back. All right. This cat's driving me nuts. All the animals do the same shit. You just get mauled to death when you come home. Now, mark this as red. Listen to this one. Police officers see large UFO / also growing orbs. Don't hit that tripod, cat. Come here. Come here. Come here. All right, listen to this. Good afternoon, Steve. Officer John Graham here again. I really appreciate what you're doing. I've become a dedicated listener. The truth must be heard. It is my hope that other officers will step up and tell their stories. Hey, my brothers in blue, we see and hear things that we hold inside and do not tell. It's because we're afraid we will lose our jobs or have to take another psych test. But we are really protecting the public by doing this. Oh, sorry, but are we really protecting the public by doing this? I don't think so. So, gentlemen and ladies, send in your stories. It's time to tell the truth. Also, the government we work for is not the same one we always agree with. Do not agree to violate these people's constitutional rights. Do not give up your freedoms to satisfy some political agenda. Okay, enough about that. Time for another truth. Well said. Thank you. And you could have went on a little farther on that topic if you wanted. Just saying. Back in the late 1980s, I was on patrol in my city. A fellow city officer contacted me on our Free Talk radio channel. This Free Talk channel is not open to the public to listen to. Hey, John, can you head over to Highway 108 at the city limits? I started towards his location, curious what he was wanting. I was only minutes away. I arrived on the scene. It was dark at this time. Officer friend was standing outside on the shoulder of the highway looking straight up. I parked my patrol car behind his car and walked over to him. Officer friend pointed up and said, "What's that look like?" I looked up and saw a very large, round-shaped UFO not moving. The UFO was gigantic and had pulsating lights going around the exterior of it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Several cars had pulled over and were looking at the object. I went to my patrol car and radioed for a state trooper friend of mine on Free Talk channel. He just happened to be on duty. State trooper friend was 5 minutes away. He arrived, looked at the object, and it was still not moving, and was approximately 2,000 feet high. I asked trooper friend, "Are you going to call this one into dispatch?" Trooper friend said, "No way." Now, about this time, a squadron of helicopters from the north were inbound to our location. They were probably coming from Fort Lewis. The helicopters circled the suspended object and were using spotlights to cast some light on it. The UFO started moving slowly away. Well, this is like a scene out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. About 6 years ago, our city received several complaints of flying glowing orbs. The orbs are about the size of a large softball and could hover or take off at high speed. I received several credible witness statements. I never did observe these orbs. Thanks for reading my factual stories. Keep up the fight, and God bless America and our friends in Canada. More stories to follow. Right on. John, keep them coming. You appreciate it, man. Keep them coming. Everybody keep them coming. Everybody's got to keep talking. Everybody's got to keep talking. I've got so much. I got so much to share. So much to share, you guys. It's silly. We got knowledge coming out of our pores these days, I'll tell you what. There's lots coming, not only from me, but from other people who you watch, who are friends with me. There's a lot more coming. Trust me, it's coming. Okay, let's do this one. Hi, watch your program all the time. Oh, this is titled Bigfoot 10 Foot From Me. Hi, I watch your program all the time. I really like your program. I want to tell you what happened to me in regards to Bigfoot back somewhere in, I think it was 2012, something like that, around November. I was helping a friend of mine put up a fence for a horse I gave her. We were putting the posts in. We kept hearing down the steep ravine something stomping around, branches breaking. And her kids would say, "Hey, look, there's something black down there." I would say, "Probably deer, squirrels, something, like that." We got all the fence done, and we started to put the gate up. Before we could lead her horse out of this little stall we had, we decided to go to town, and her twin boys, okay, we're lacking some punctuation, all right? This one's going to be a little rough. Her twin boys were about 12 years old, and so when we came back, we're pulling down the driveway, and she's got woods all around a big, deep ravine down behind the fenced-in area. I started to get out of my vehicle and seen the boys are standing on the porch, and all of a sudden we hear this big, deep screaming sound like it was kind of high up in the air. I looked at her and she looked at me, and I said, Man, I'm going to run down there and scare these cats out of the tree. Sounds like they're killing each other. They're going to kill each other. And so I took off running. Thank the Lord there was a fence, and it stopped me in my tracks, because right on the other side of the fence, I would have ran into that Bigfoot. I stopped, and he was still in a scream and had his back towards me, and his head was up in the air screaming. And I was hanging onto that fence in shock, just looking right at him. He was reddish brown, kinky, curly hair. That's how close I was to it. It was massively built. His arms were long, and when he came out of that scream, he didn't know I was there. He came out of that scream, and the twin boys was running down behind me, and I think he heard them running, and I'm still standing there in shock. And he heard them. He pushed the big trees apart with his arms to get away from us, and he took like maybe 4 big, huge, massive steps and jumped down this ravine. And the boys were saying, "Let's go after him, let's go after him." I looked at them in shock and said, "Not me. You can." That's the first time I've seen one. I have pictures of a baby in a tree. I've seen several different colored ones, and I've heard them talking, and they talk a different language. And one told me that they are tribes, and one was in a tribe called the Sasquatch tribe. If you want to hear a few more, contact me or email me back. Thank you, and have a good day, and be blessed. Holy shit. Terry, email back some more. All right, you got more? We want to hear it. If I was set up for the live talks right now, I'd be all over it, but I'm not yet, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm trying to find another one. I read a couple when I was on the boat coming back across the ocean. And I'll see if I can find this other one that I really wanted to share before I go. All right. I got this one more I'm going to share. Sounds a little alarming. And that'll be good for right now. And then hopefully I can share what I'm intending to share tomorrow, later on after tomorrow. This is titled, "Visited by Mysterious Men in a Tahoe with No Plates." Hello, Steve. This is Ray from Texas. I'm the guy who swerved to a Bigfoot on the Sabine River Bridge in 2012. It pissed him off, and he chased me across the bridge. I told you about a nurse at my dialysis clinic in Temple, Texas. She left, and I haven't seen her to give her the advice you told me, which was for her to write into you. Yes, of course, I remember you, man. Her house was being harassed by a black 8-foot Bigfoot. Now, here's the encounter. I was eating breakfast at a restaurant. Oh, God, these cat hairs everywhere. I was eating breakfast at a restaurant on Friday, March 4th, 2022. I finished and I went to my car, which was on the corner of the parking lot, when a couple of men in suits, not black, but with sunglasses and pale skin, they said that they followed your show, and a mutual friend had told them my story, and that they're wanting to ask questions, and were very much in a hurry for me to answer their questions. Fortunately, my friends were walking up to me. The men got into the car and said to me, "We'll see you soon, and don't tell anyone else about their visit." I told them to go to hell, and I knew the truth. I saw a cop car coming, and I told him that I contacted the police, but he was only passing through the parking lot in his police car. I had not called the police. The men in the car cursed, and they hauled ass. They told me to keep my mouth shut. I went back to the restaurant and checked the cameras, but they went out about the time the men showed up. But the cameras looked in bad conditions, so I'll see if someone has seen any info on their cameras. Steve, no one wants me to bring up their names or business names, but wanted me to let you know about the men. Has this happened to other people in the glorious group? You're a hero and God bless you. And Donald Trump, my president. Thank you, Ray. This is a true story and I have witnesses. Okay, Ray. That's interesting and kind of alarming. I have had some ex-law enforcement officer. I think I had a current law enforcement officer in the States was investigating a certain property with the families have multiple encounters with these experiences with these beings, and they had made him promise that he wouldn't tell anybody where it was going down or something. Anyway, what he did was he contacted the BFRO, tried phoning a million times, said he would only talk to the main idiot there. And then a voice spoke back to him saying it was the idiot. And then immediately after, the people who own the property were phoning him, blowing a gasket, telling him he's never allowed back on the property because the guys in the SUVs showed up, and police and a helicopter, and harassing the property. And then he said that he got pulled over by a cop and a plainclothes guy who was trying to play the good cop, bad cop thing with him, threatening him with his retirement money unless he shared everything he knew with them. And then he said that he knew his rights, rattled his rights off, told them to go ram up their ass, and they left, pissed off. So that's one incident that I do know of that was somebody contacted me and said it was something similar. We have had a few people talk about these people who show up, unmarked vehicles, harassing people, following people, whatever. And here's the message to you people if you people who do that and are doing that, and you're watching this channel and you're listening to me right now, one of these days, you're not going to return from your little games. You're going to follow the wrong person who's going to lead your dumb ass into a dead end, and you're going to own your ass. That's a fact. So whoever you are, whatever it is you're trying to cover up, or whoever you're trying to intimidate, it's going to come full circle around and bite you in the ass. It is. All right? I get a bit of a shit-eating attitude when it comes to that crap myself, getting back to all you other people here, the regular people. I got a shitty attitude when it comes to lying, deceiving, manipulating fascist governments and these pricks. The pricks in our communities who are intent on keeping truth away from you and I. I have zero respect for them. I almost, in a way, I can't help it. It's just the way I feel sometimes. I would almost sometimes wish and hope that somebody in those unmarked cars comes and tails me into the woods one day. That's how angry it makes me. But anyway, I will leave you guys on that note. Just so you know, yeah, there's other people have reported, made mentions of these pricks, these sleazy, coward pukes to us in the past. Whatever is what it is, we're leaving them in the dirt. They don't count. It's all about us, the people. We're pretty strong and powerful, right? So, every animal is shedding around here, man. This cat seems to think that I am here for it. Every single night, the thing just sticks to me like frickin' Velcro. Holy cow. It's a frickin' furball. Anyway, there you go, you guys. That's it. That's good for now. I hope this camera worked out. I guess we'll find out shortly. And hopefully, when I crack open my email in a few minutes, I get the green light to share some substantial information with all of you. I'm quite sure he's going to say green light, but out of respect, I want to make sure and double check first. I'll be back tomorrow. You guys in the unmarked cars, ram it up your asses.